Good afternoon, welcome to tertiary world. A very windy and strangely hot, suddenly hot day in Mildura. Dust storms are gathering and the sky's gone from a bright blue to a hazy blue. If you hear the building groaning and moaning, it's because the wind is kind of pulling it and stretching it. It's like being inside a living thing. Today I'm reading the last of 7 memories that arose as I walked the length of Amess Street in 2008. And then I begin on the 4th North-South Street, Brunswick Street, with the first memory. So this is the last of Amess Street, number 36, Amess Street. A hat factory then stood at this address in the 1960s. I used to often walk past it and catch glimpses of silent middle-aged workers sitting in concentration at machines and tables, moulding leather and felt. Somehow a different time beat emanated from its open doors, and each afternoon at exactly 4 o'clock, workers streamed out, heading in many directions, all suddenly lively and happy to be going home. One Saturday night in early October 1966, endless fire brigade sirens seemed to sound just outside our door. Many of us hurried outside. Huge flames raged somewhere at the end of the street. We hurried down to watch the glittering helmets of the firemen moving through the rubble. 6 or 7 trucks were parked in formation outside the factory, and half a dozen hoses were spraying thick jets of water into plumes of acrid smoke, rising high into the sky. We stayed and watched in silence until early morning. The next day, dozens of young people who lived in the surrounding streets came to trawl through the wreckage, looking for treasures. Suddenly there was much excitement as someone found a number of boxes of felt hats stacked inside a couple of rooms at the far end of the building that had somehow been left undamaged by the fire. Everyone rushed over and began to hand around the fabulous objects. Some began to try them on, whilst others, walking around the still smoky ruins, threw them around. Suddenly the police arrived and people drifted off into the surrounding neighbourhood wearing an assortment of variously coloured hats. A merry company moving through the streets in the day's fading light. For a number of years afterwards, you would occasionally see one of those hats bobbing up and down in the crowd in front of you, always just beyond reach. This is the first of 7 memories of Rathdowne Street, not Brunswick Street, as I said at the start. Rathdowne Street, the 4th North-South Street. And this memory is the first that arises in me always, but certainly the first that arose when I walked it in 2008 is of the exhibition gardens. Julie, in her white nightie, is stealing brightly coloured flowers from the garden bed opposite Queensbury Street late one night during the autumn of 1969. But before that, just to the side of the flower bed, I can see myself playing near the edge of the pond outside the exhibition building one warm afternoon in the summer of 1956. My mother is there and she fishes out a brown leather ball that has somehow fallen into the pond. She wears a floral dress and she's at the edge of something, some dark feeling. The ball is rescued with a long branch she has found, but the effort exhausts her and she sits on the grass to rest. I instinctively stop playing there's more. It's very early on a chilly and misty Saturday morning in the winter of 1975. I'm constantly astonished by this. Emma is riding the multicoloured tricycle I painted for her around the children's model driving track set up in the northern part of the gardens. It has mock traffic lights, a mini service station, and even a tiny pedestrian crossing. I follow her on my bike, riding very slowly, with Sunny strapped on the baby seat, perched on top of the back wheel. She's wearing sky blue tights and a pink woolen cap. I can still see Emma gripping the tricycle's handlebars and looking up at me wide-eyed, the question frozen in her throat. Early that morning, the minute they awoke, I'd immediately dressed them both in their warmest winter clothes. It was still dark outside in Queensbury Street, and for some reason I'd decided to take them riding around the streetlight park, as we came to call it in later years. Why did I do that? And this is what astonishes me. Why didn't I stay with them in our warm bed, playing in the early morning and easing our way into the world slowly? What did we do at the end of this ride? Where did we go? How did we spend the rest of the day? What was I running from? And there's another. It's 1976 and Chris has come to live in Melbourne. We're standing in the gardens outside the Commonwealth Centre, where she has concluded some official business. Kite is with us and she covers him completely with a pile of autumn leaves. His bright blue eyes sparkling lively amongst the brown and gold. As I drive down Rathdowne Street every morning on my way to work, I instinctively look to where the streetlight park was and to where Julie picked bright red flowers that warm autumn midnight. Further down towards Victoria Parade, I see Kite shake the leaves off his little body and run laughing to his mother. Deeper inside the gardens, early morning light filters through elms onto the surface of water. I see my mother stretching to retrieve the ball with a branch. The lights change and I move on. Everything still is alive all around us, for each of us, probably into eternity. Doesn't seem to fade. If you can recall the most minute thing, then there's that's a trigger for a kind of medley of memories that arise. Until tomorrow, more Rathdowne Street memories as they arose for me in 2008. I better shut all the windows in the house because the dust is getting closer. Have a wonderful afternoon, wherever you are.